Sasha Rivers adjusted the strap of her bag as she stepped out of the sleek black car, taking in the towering glass facade of Julian Chen's penthouse. This was supposed to be a simple assignment, a high-paying nanny job for a wealthy businessman who traveled constantly. But Sasha knew better. She had been chosen not just for her childcare skills, but for her ability to slip unnoticed into a world full of secrets. She squared her shoulders and pressed the buzzer, reminding herself, this was just a job, a mission, nothing more. Julian's voice, deep and commanding, answered from the intercom. Sasha Rivers? That's me, she said, keeping her voice steady. Good. Come up, he replied, and she heard the click of the elevator. The moment she stepped inside the penthouse, Sasha's instincts went on high alert. Every detail screamed wealth and power: polished marble floors, minimalist furniture, subtle art that cost more than most people earned in a year. She reminded herself that her mission was clear: blend in, observe, extract. No distractions. Then she heard a small voice call out, "Nanny." Sasha's heart softened slightly as a little girl, probably 5 or 6, raced toward her, curls bouncing, eyes bright and curious. "Hi there," Sasha said, kneeling to meet her at eye level. "I'm Sasha. I'm going to be your nanny." "I'm Emily," the girl said, hugging Sasha's leg. "Daddy said you're really nice." Sasha smiled, hiding the pang of guilt she felt. She wasn't just here to care for Emily. She was here to spy, to steal secrets from Emily's father. She couldn't let anyone see the truth. Julian appeared then, stepping out of the shadows of the living room, tall and impeccably dressed. His gaze landed on Sasha, and she felt the weight of it instantly. Sharp, assessing, powerful. A man used to control, used to commanding attention, used to making people accountable. "You must be Sasha," he said smoothly, voice low and precise. "I hope you like children." Emily is energetic. "She's perfect," Sasha said, forcing warmth into her tone. Every word was a calculated lie, every smile carefully measured. Julian studied her for a long moment, and Sasha felt as if he could see through her. "Good. I trust you'll take care of her," he said finally, his eyes lingering on hers just a second too long. "And I expect discretion." Sasha nodded. "Absolutely." As Julian left the room, Emily grabbed Sasha's hand. "Do you want to play with me?" she asked, excitement bright in her voice. "Yes," Sasha said softly, kneeling beside her. "Let's play." But as she played, a flicker of doubt crossed Sasha's mind. Every laugh, every hug, every bedtime story she would read, every moment she shared with Emily, was a lie. She had been sent here to steal from this man, and now she was starting to care. And when Julian glanced in from the doorway later, watching Sasha with his daughter, something flickered in his eyes: suspicion, curiosity, maybe even attraction. Sasha's heart quickened, both with the thrill of her mission and the dangerous pull of something she shouldn't feel. She reminded herself, she was here to spy, not to fall, not to love. But as the sun set over the city, casting golden light across the penthouse, Sasha realized that the hardest part of her assignment wouldn't be the corporate secrets, the late-night hacking, or the careful lies. It would be the man whose heart she had just stepped into, and the truth that, no matter how careful she was, she might betray him in ways even she couldn't predict. The following week, Sasha found herself settling into the rhythm of the Chen penthouse. Mornings were spent preparing breakfast and organizing Emily's school routine. Afternoons were filled with playdates, homework, and gentle bedtime stories. On the surface, she was the perfect nanny, attentive, cheerful, and utterly devoted to the child in her care. But beneath the calm exterior, every moment was calculated. Every smile, every laugh, every glance she shared with Julian was a careful maneuver, designed to keep him unaware of her true purpose. She had infiltrated his life, and now the real challenge was maintaining control over her mission and over herself. Julian, for his part, was impossibly attentive. He noticed everything: the way Sasha read to Emily, the slight hesitation before she answered his questions, even the subtle scent of her perfume in the air. He was meticulous, analytical, a man who prided himself on seeing the truth behind appearances. "You've been spending a lot of time with her," Julian said one evening, leaning casually against the doorway as Sasha tucked Emily into bed. "I enjoy it," Sasha replied lightly, keeping her tone neutral. "She's a wonderful child." Julian stepped closer, eyes dark and unreadable. "And how about you, Sasha? Are you enjoying your time here?" Sasha's pulse quickened, and she forced herself to meet his gaze evenly. I like my work," she said carefully, concealing the rapid thrum of her heart. He smiled slightly, but there was a sharpness to it, as if he sensed there was more beneath her composed exterior. "Good. Because I value honesty here, above everything else." The tension in the room was undeniable. Sasha felt the pull between them, a dangerous, magnetic force that was impossible to ignore. And yet, she reminded herself constantly, her mission came first. She had a goal, a purpose, and she could not allow herself to fall. Not for him, not for Emily, not for anything. Later that night, while Julian was working in his office, Sasha sat at the kitchen counter, laptop open. She was supposed to gather information, subtle details about his business operations, corporate vulnerabilities. But as she typed, she felt a pang of guilt. Every move she made in this home brought her closer to the man she had sworn to deceive, and further from the person she thought she was. Julian appeared behind her, leaning casually against the doorway. The dim glow of the city lights highlighted the sharp angles of his face, the commanding presence that had made her heart race from the first moment she met him. "You're working late," he said, voice low, almost teasing. Sasha swallowed. "I wanted to make sure everything is in order for tomorrow," she replied, keeping her tone professional. He stepped closer, so close that she could feel his warmth behind her. "You're very thorough," he said, voice husky. "But sometimes you need to step back. Not everything requires perfection." Her breath hitched at the sound, at the nearness, at the undeniable chemistry sparking between them. I like being thorough," she said softly, fighting the urge to turn and look into his eyes. Julian's hand brushed against hers, not intentionally, perhaps, but just enough to send a jolt through her body. "Sometimes, Sasha," he murmured, voice low and intimate, "perfection can hide truths that need to be seen." Her chest tightened. His words, his presence, his subtle touches, they were a reminder that she was walking a dangerous line. One misstep, one slip, and her mission could unravel. Worse, her carefully maintained distance from Julian was already compromised. Over the next days, the closeness intensified. Morning breakfasts turned into lingering conversations. Homework sessions became subtle tests of patience and charm. Even Emily noticed, teasingly commenting on how fun Sasha and Daddy seemed together. And Julian seemed to hang on her every word, every gesture, his gaze lingering just a second too long, his tone softer than it had any right to be. One evening, as Sasha tucked Emily into bed, the little girl looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes. "Do you like Daddy?" she asked innocently. Sasha froze, heart lurching. "I like him very much," she replied carefully, knowing that even the smallest slip could reveal more than she intended. Emily smiled, snuggling into her blanket. "Good. He likes you too." Alone in the living room afterward, Sasha sank into the sofa, realizing just how entangled she was becoming. Her mission, once clear and simple, was now riddled with complications. Every smile she gave Julian, every shared moment, every subtle glance pulled her closer to something she had sworn to resist. And she knew, with a cold clarity, that the greatest danger of all wasn't being caught in her spy mission. It was falling for the man whose trust she had promised to betray. The city lights outside the Chen penthouse glimmered like a constellation, casting soft reflections across the polished floors. Sasha Rivers moved quietly through the apartment, tidying toys and books Emily had scattered across the living room. On the surface, she appeared like any other devoted nanny, but beneath her composed exterior, her mind was racing. Every interaction with Julian Chen pulled at her in ways she hadn't anticipated. He was magnetic, intelligent, commanding, unexpectedly tender with Emily, and every moment spent near him made the walls she had carefully built around her heart feel dangerously thin. That evening, Julian returned earlier than usual, the click of his shoes announcing his arrival before he even appeared. Sasha felt her pulse quicken, her body reacting to his presence despite the warnings she had whispered to herself all week. "You're still here?" he asked, his deep voice smooth and teasing. "I wanted to make sure Emily was ready for tomorrow," she said, keeping her tone neutral, though her fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted the girl's blanket. Julian stepped closer, and Sasha felt the warmth of him before she even saw him. "You spend a lot of time thinking about everyone else," he said softly, eyes dark and unreadable. "Do you ever think about yourself?" Sasha swallowed, her pulse racing. "He's too perceptive, too dangerous." She forced a calm smile. "I'm fine," she replied, though the lie tasted bitter. "Are you?" he asked, his voice low and intimate, just above a whisper. "Because from where I stand, you seem restless." The proximity made her aware of his cologne, warm and commanding, and the subtle tension in his body. Every instinct screamed caution, yet another part of her, a reckless, foolish part, wanted to lean into the pull between them. Julian's gaze lingered on her longer than necessary. "Sasha," he murmured, moving just a step closer, "you're hiding something. I can feel it. You don't have to tell me now, but I will find out. Eventually." Her breath caught. The careful control she had maintained for weeks was slipping, and the idea of him discovering her secret, her mission, the lies, the betrayal, filled her with equal parts dread and exhilaration. Over the next few days, Julian's attention intensified. Mornings began with lingering coffee conversations, where his questions were sharp yet intimate. Evenings were spent reviewing Emily's school projects, during which his hand would brush hers accidentally or deliberately, and her pulse would leap with every touch. One night, after putting Emily to bed, Sasha found herself alone in the living room with Julian. He had been reviewing documents, but now he looked up, eyes softening as they met hers. "You've been here for a week," he said quietly, stepping closer. "And yet I feel like I barely know you." "Why is that, Sasha?" Her heart raced. This is it, one wrong word, and everything unravels. She forced a steady voice. "I'm careful," she said, letting the lie slide naturally. Julian smiled faintly, stepping into her space so that the warmth of his body pressed against hers. "Careful doesn't suit you," he murmured. "I see the fire in your eyes, the edge in your voice. You're hiding something, maybe from me, maybe from yourself. But I like it. I like you." Her breath hitched, and she felt herself teetering on the edge of control. The tension between them had grown so thick, it was almost tangible. She wanted to resist, to remember her mission, to protect herself and the secrets she carried. But every instinct screamed that she couldn't. Julian's hand brushed a strand of hair from her face, and the faintest spark ran through her body. "Sasha," he whispered, voice husky, "you don't have to fight this. Not with me." Her heart pounded. She could feel his nearness, the subtle heat of his body, the undeniable magnetism pulling her toward him. And in that moment, all the careful planning, all the focus on espionage, all the rules she had set for herself crumbled. They were inches apart now, breaths mingling, the quiet hum of the city below punctuating the tension. Julian's eyes searched hers, unreadable, commanding, tempting her to surrender. Sasha's body betrayed her, every nerve alight with desire she hadn't allowed herself to feel. And yet, buried deep under the heat of the moment, she felt the sharp pang of fear. Every heartbeat reminded her. She was a spy, hiding a dangerous secret, and the closer she got to him, the more catastrophic the betrayal could become. She began, words catching in her throat. "Sure," he murmured, placing a finger gently over her lips. "Not yet. Let yourself feel this. Let me show you that trust isn't always dangerous." Sasha closed her eyes, letting herself linger in that moment. Desire, fear, and guilt collided inside her, creating a storm she couldn't escape. And when Julian leaned in, brushing his lips against hers in a fleeting, electric kiss, Sasha knew without a doubt that she was crossing a line she could never uncross. Later, alone in her room, Sasha stared at herself in the mirror, heart racing and palms trembling. She had wanted control, precision, and distance. Instead, she had let herself fall for the man she was meant to deceive. And she realized, with a sinking thrill in her chest, that the greatest danger of all wasn't the mission. It was him. The Chen penthouse was quiet, the city outside shimmering in the night. Sasha Rivers sat on the couch, trying to steady her racing heart. She had always known this day would come. The moment when her carefully hidden truths would collide with the life she had built inside these walls. Julian Chen appeared suddenly in the doorway, his expression unreadable, eyes dark and stormy. He didn't speak at first, just stood there, taking in the sight of her. Sasha's stomach knotted. She knew the moment he discovered her secret was inevitable, but it didn't make the confrontation any less terrifying. "Sasha," he said finally, voice low and dangerous. "We need to talk." Her heart skipped. Every instinct screamed to run, to hide, but she knew there was nowhere to go. I can explain," she said carefully, rising to face him. He crossed the room in a few strides, stopping just short of her. "Explain?" he repeated, each syllable heavy with disbelief and hurt. "Do you know what it feels like to trust someone with the most important part of your life, and then realize that person has been lying to you from the start?" Sasha's throat tightened. "Julian, I didn't." "Didn't what?" His voice rose slightly, though still controlled. "Steal from me? Betray me? Pretend to be something you're not?" "I was sent here," she admitted, voice trembling, "to gather information. It was supposed to be just a job. I didn't mean to—" "You didn't mean to fall in love with me?" he interrupted, his eyes blazing. "Or did that part happen by accident too?" Sasha's chest heaved. The truth had been building between them like a storm, and now it broke. "I never wanted to hurt you," she whispered. "I never expected this," she added, gesturing toward the space between them, the unspoken bond, the growing feelings she could no longer deny. Julian's expression softened slightly, but his pain was still palpable. "You had me," he said quietly, almost to himself. "You had my trust, my home, my heart, and you deceived me." Tears pricked Sasha's eyes. "I didn't expect to care for Emily like I do. And I didn't expect to feel this for you. But I do. I never stopped caring, not for either of you." For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, the weight of betrayal heavy in the air. Then, slowly, Julian sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You're reckless," he said, voice low, "and infuriating." But his gaze softened, lingering on her face, eyes filled with a mix of anger, longing, and something deeper. "I can't deny that I care too. Maybe too much." Sasha's heart leapt. "Julian?" He closed the distance between them, cupping her face in his hands. "I don't know how we move forward," he admitted, voice husky. "But I do know one thing. I don't want to lose you, not Emily. Not because of the lies, but because of what we've become." The word struck her like a lightning bolt. In that moment, Sasha realized that love, trust, and forgiveness were dangerous, but they were also the only way forward. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust again. I'll prove to you that what I feel is real, Julian. Not lies. Not deception. Me." Julian leaned closer, their foreheads touching. "Then show me," he murmured, voice low and tender. "Show me." And in that moment, the walls between them shattered. Their lips met in a kiss that was slow, deliberate, and full of the passion they had been holding back. Every ounce of tension, longing, and forbidden desire spilled into that kiss, consuming them, binding them together. The night stretched on as they talked, cried, and held each other close. Julian listened as Sasha explained everything: the mission, the guilt, the love that had grown despite her deception. And while the hurt didn't vanish, the depth of their connection became undeniable. In the days that followed, Sasha worked tirelessly to regain Julian's trust, not through words alone, but through actions, care, honesty, and unwavering devotion. She grew closer to Emily, forming a bond that could never be broken, and she allowed herself to love Julian openly, fiercely, without shame or reservation. Julian, in turn, allowed himself to be vulnerable, to accept her past mistakes, and to embrace the woman he had grown to love. Together, they rebuilt what had been broken, discovering that love could survive deception if honesty, patience, and passion were at the core. Months later, standing on the balcony of the penthouse, Sasha held Emily's hand while Julian stood behind her, fingers intertwined with hers. The city sparkled below, a reminder of the chaos they had survived and the life they had forged together. "I never thought we'd get here," Sasha whispered, leaning into Julian's warmth. He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Neither did I," he admitted. "But here we are. And I wouldn't change a thing. Not the mistakes, not the lies, not a single moment that brought us to this." Sasha smiled, feeling the weight of the past lift, replaced by the warmth of love, trust, and redemption. She had entered Julian's world as a spy, a deceiver, a stranger. But she had stayed as something far more real, someone who belonged, heart and soul, to the man she loved and the little girl who had captured them both. And in that moment, with Julian and Emily by her side, Sasha knew that some secrets were meant to unravel so that the truth and the love it revealed could finally endure.